Hello, you're watching TVP World Talks. I'm Nawrocki. More than 8 decades on, the tragic legacy of the Volhynia massacre, the brutal execution of about 100,000 Poles by Ukrainian nationalists, lives on. Like an unhealed wound, it continues to divide Poland and Ukraine, despite both countries struggling against a common enemy. Yet as political elites in Warsaw and Kiev remain locked in a bitter dispute, how do ordinary people feel about those events today? Can the spirit of compassion that united both nations when Russia attacked Ukraine survive the political turmoil? Joining us here today is Rafał Pankowski, co-founder of the Never Again Association. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Hello.
So when looking at the Polish and the Ukrainian society today, can you see the moods changing as a result of the political dispute that we've seen unfolding during the last couple of weeks?
Well, yes, of course, and I am afraid the change is very problematic, I would say. Because there is the level of international relations and the dispute between political leaders of countries, but there is also a very important grassroots or social level. There are many Ukrainian refugees in Poland, and I am afraid that also has an impact on them. And what we have seen in the last weeks and months has been an increase in acts of discrimination and even violence against the Ukrainians in Poland, which is a very unfortunate result of the high-level political discourse. And I think, of course, the victims of the massacres in the 1940s, they deserve commemoration. And it is important to discuss those issues in a frank and open way, but we also need to be aware of the implications, possible negative implications that we are also witnessing.
Do you think these changes could be irreversible? I'm talking both about, the negativity that we have seen and that you've mentioned. So essentially some isolated acts of aggression, hatred spreading online, but also some negative comments about Poland on the Ukrainian side, right? Do you think that this is like a new wound that is unlikely to heal anytime soon, even if there is some reconciliation between national leaders? Well,
this might be the case, and that would be, of course, very very tragic in a sense, because we know that over the years, Poland and Ukraine, Polish and Ukrainian society has, those societies have achieved a degree of reconciliation already. And of course, what happened in 2022 was very remarkable. I think this wave of solidarity in Poland, solidarity with Ukraine and with Ukrainian refugees. That's very important. That was very very significant, very meaningful, very authentic. And it seems to me it is very unfortunate that some of that progress in terms of Polish-Ukrainian relations, the relations between Polish and Ukrainian people, that is likely to be rolled back. And I am afraid that the kind of negativity that we are witnessing today, it could have more impact in future, which would be very unfortunate. It is still avoidable, I believe, but at this stage, I think the repercussions of the current conflict around history, well, it can be very real.
Right, so it may seem like an obvious question, but isn't this situation a dream come true for Moscow? Does the Kremlin have an interest in exacerbating this conflict even further, in driving negative engagement online and spreading false myths about Poland in Ukraine and vice versa?
Well, of course, it is very important to note that the current context of the war, the aggression against Ukraine, is very key here, and of course, this kind of division between Poles and Ukrainians benefits the aggressor. It benefits the Russian authorities. And I think, in a way, the social media plays a very important role here, which is also a very negative role. And I think we remember the time when we thought of the internet and the social media as this new wonderful tool of communication for people above the divisions of culture and national background and so on. Today, unfortunately, the social media have become a major tool of division and spreading hate speech. And of course, this is utilized in a major way by the third actor here, that is Russia, and that is the Putin government. Well, supposedly the social media platforms are responsible or co-responsible for the contents they spread. But in practice, very little has been done to contain the spread of hate speech, including the hate speech against Ukrainians, Ukrainian refugees, and of course other groups.
Is this fight against disinformation essentially a lost cause? Because we've already seen this happening. Right? We've seen Russian drones flying across the border. This incursion has been widely commented online, but there are many conspiracy theories spreading, including by people who don't really specialize in geopolitics. Let's just leave it at that, right? Commentators who all of a sudden decided that they know everything about what has happened, and they pinned the blame on Ukraine instead of on Russia. And these theories, unfortunately, proved to be remarkably popular, leading to certain polls suggesting that many people actually believe that theory. So, do you think that any sort of decisive action is still possible before, essentially, the online sphere gets out of control in this regard?
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, conspiracy theory is especially attractive in times of crisis and anxiety, and this is precisely the kind of context that we are witnessing, we are going through today. And this is one of the reasons why there is, for example, so much conspiracy theory targeting Ukraine and Ukrainians that is simultaneously anti-Semitic. So the conspiracy theory claiming that Jews and Ukrainians together are working to dominate Poland and create what the far right calls Ukropolin, and the political movement around Grzegorz Braun, for example, has been very active spreading this kind of nonsense. And yes, you are right to say this is very difficult in terms of containing or counteracting or removing this kind of content from the online spaces, but it's not impossible. And in the European Union, for example, we have the Digital Services Act, which theoretically provides legal means to combat the spread of this kind of disinformation and hate speech. In practice, however, both the national authorities and the European authorities have been rather slow in enforcing those usually US-based companies to actually implement this kind of legal framework, and US-based companies such as X have been very reluctant in many cases to do anything to combat the spread of hate speech online, despite they are bound to do it by international legal provisions.
So now, obviously, that's also a question of the differing philosophies, right? I mean, the so-called free speech absolutism that dominates in the US, where they say we will not apply any sort of preventive censorship. In Europe, there are different experiences concerning, for example, the activities by far-right and far-left organizations, which have led lawmakers to be more proactive in this regard. But coming back to the question of mutual relations between Poles and Ukrainians, do you believe that this sort of online activity would be enough to undo what has been a really substantial achievement of the last few years? Essentially, Poles and Ukrainians meeting one another in non-political circumstances, getting to know one another and getting to live together as neighbors. Do you think that there is enough momentum and perhaps enough grievances that are, hidden behind these layers of cooperation related to history, as we've mentioned, to damage that link that has been built and that has also allowed the economy to thrive, essentially, given that many Ukrainians here live and work and pay their taxes?
Well, absolutely, and of course the social media aspect is very important, but it's not the only aspect of the issue, definitely. Yes, even if there is peace in Ukraine tomorrow, of course, many of the Ukrainians who are currently in Poland, I think they will stay in Poland for many different reasons, and they are an important and very valued part of Polish society today, and also the Polish economy. And yes, they are often our neighbors, our colleagues, and it is, I think, very important for Poland today and for the future of Poland, for the Polish-Ukrainian relations to be positive and not hostile, because it is a big minority in Poland today, and it will remain a big minority in Poland today, and certainly those people must not be held accountable for whatever decisions are taken by the political leaders in Kiev, or certainly for what happened 80 years ago. I think this is very basic and very important as something we should bear in mind. But I think, like I said in the very beginning, that one very unfortunate result of the current dispute on the interstate level has been the cases of negativity against the Ukrainian refugees in Poland, and this is something that we should also talk about, and we should make sure that the culprits in this kind of hate crime attacks are found and punished, and I think a sense of safety and security for the Ukrainians in Poland must be guaranteed. That is very, very important as a challenge today.
So a very quick question to round off our discussion. Can you see national leaders on both sides actually taking a step back right now? Can you see positive signals for de-escalating the dispute?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, I hope that leaders on both sides understand that there's something very, very important at stake, which is the longer-term relationship between both countries and both nations. And of course, I understand that the context of the war is not necessarily, the best context for a historical discussion to be had. But I think a further escalation can be very negative. We had a very successful Congress of Polish and Ukrainian historians in Warsaw not so long ago, earlier this year, and I believe that this kind of dialogue is potentially very fruitful. Instead of what can be called instrumentalization or politicization of history, we should allow some space for an open debate about history to be conducted by someone else than politicians. I think this is the way to go.
Rafał Pankowski was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And I'm Jan You're watching TVP World. Please stay with us for more latest news, updates and commentary.